I have been debating whether to post this. I'll start by explaining the area so you can get a good picture of where this happened. We lived in a small neighborhood. All of the surrounding streets dead-ended into a half-circle park. Behind the park were some woods and a railroad track. When we were younger, we all played in the front part of the woods. We never ventured too far back. This was our play area for years. We never had any issues or scares. This area was a pretty and well-lit wooded area. Anyhow, one day my brother Jimmy, my best friend Sarah, and my brother's best friend Ian were all building a dam in the middle of a small creek that ran through the park and the woods. The boys decided they were going to head back to Ian's house for some snacks. Sarah and I said we would stay and finish our camp area. As we were moving rocks around, I got a very odd feeling come over me. A strange feeling that we were being watched. I immediately thought it was the boys trying to scare us, so I just continued with what we were doing. Sarah and I loaded up some big rocks and headed back to the creek to put them down at the dam. I got that feeling again, and as I stood up I saw something straight in front of me about 30 feet away. I couldn't clearly make out what it was yet because it was behind a bush, but I did see that it was a pattern of red and blue. I knew that wasn't anything the boys had on, so at this point I was focusing on trying to figure out what it was. As I scanned up the bush, I started to realize it was a clown. I'm not kidding. My heart started pounding immediately. The clown and my eyes locked. He was wearing a blue and red hat with a reverse pattern red and blue jumpsuit. I grabbed Sarah's shirt and immediately pulled her upright, and she noticed the man right away. He was smiling with a full face of makeup and had a huge knife. We both said nothing and started running as fast as our legs could take us. He began to follow. We could hear twigs snapping and the ground crunching, but we were booking it. We ran through the front of the woods, through the side of the park, and up her dead-end street. Ian and Jimmy were 2 houses up from the end and saw us running. They screamed, asking what was going on. While running past, we screamed, "A clown," and they started laughing. We were still running, screaming for our lives, and finally made it to the middle of the street where Sarah's dad, Danny, was now running out the front door because he heard us screaming. We met Danny right at the beginning of the neighbor's house trying to explain what we had seen, and he said, "Girls, stop it now, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" We tried to catch our breath. By this time, Jimmy and Ian had caught up to us. We were crying and pointing and telling Danny again that we saw a clown with a knife. Jimmy and Ian were laughing, and Danny asked if they had played a prank on us. About this time, an old yellow Pinto-type car came from the dead end at the park and pulled right up next to the sidewalk of the yard we were in. Sure enough, plain as day, it was the clown. No hat this time, but knife in hand, telling us to come here. Danny started shoving us all toward the house, and he himself was scared and running now. The car drove off down the street. We got inside and Danny called the police. We had to give statements and the police patrolled the neighborhood and the park for a few weeks. We were never allowed to go into the park again, and a few months later, the city started clearing out the woods. They cut down many trees and made a walking area where you could see all the way through to the train tracks. My friend and I used to talk about this many times until her death. No one would believe us if they hadn't seen it as well. It was just so scary. I think they only got to see him because whoever it was had to go down the dead-end street to leave the neighborhood. Either way, this man was not afraid of us, nor the small group of people that gathered from our screaming. He very bravely stopped right in front of us as her father tried to comfort us and calm us down, all while flashing his knife. I feel lucky to be alive. Had it just been one of us left in the woods, which sometimes happened, I don't think there would have been a group of 4 of us any longer. Sarah's dad stopped drinking that day. We all have a fear of clowns. This has always been at the back of my mind. I'm 23 now. Let me explain the house we lived in. It was an upstairs downstairs, and upstairs there was 1 bedroom and a long hallway to the bathroom where I was. I started a new job when I was 20. It was a trainee position at a hairdresser's. I spent the whole day on my feet, making coffees and tea and brushing up hair on the floor. It doesn't seem like hard work, but the hairdresser's was very busy because a bride was in with her bridesmaids trying out different hairstyles, so I had to stay a bit longer. I started at 9 in the morning and finished at 5 in the evening. After my shift, all I could think about was a nice warm bath. My legs were killing me. I lived with my boyfriend, who was out of town doing some jobs for his dad to help pay the rent. It was a fairly nice house. It belonged to his brother, who allowed us to move in. As soon as I got home, I relaxed for a bit, then went upstairs. I ran my bath, locked the door, and got in. At this point, I was drifting away in a very relaxing hot bath, but then I heard a noise on the stairs and it startled me. I convinced myself I was being paranoid because I don't like being home alone, but then I heard it again. It was like someone was slowly sneaking up the stairs. I lay still in the bath, making sure the water didn't splash. While I was doing this, I listened closely, and I wasn't being paranoid. Someone was sneaking up the stairs very slowly, step by step. I was lying in the bath, terrified, with tears running down my face. The noise had moved from the stairs to the hallway, and it was getting closer and closer until it stopped outside my bathroom door. I froze, not moving, and I even held my breath. I don't know how long this lasted, but it felt like hours. I could hear breathing against the door and a light, faint tapping on the door. I stayed quiet and prayed they didn't bust the door down. This must have lasted a few minutes, but it felt like hours. My fear was confirmed. Very loud footsteps were making their way back down the stairs, and my back door slammed open. I jumped out of the bath, ran down the hall, and grabbed the phone we had in our bedroom. I ran straight back to the bathroom and locked the door. I called the police. My skin was wrinkled from the water. I was shaking, crying on the phone to the operator. She told me to stay in the bathroom with the door locked until 2 police officers arrived, and she would tell me when they were there. Dripping wet with my back pressed against the bathroom door, shivering, I waited. We stayed on the phone until the police came. They checked the back and front doors. The back door was open. I stayed in the bathroom until the police officer shouted up that it was safe to come out. Then he came up shouting it was safe, and I ran down the stairs like my life depended on it. The woman officer calmed me down while I told her what happened. She asked if it could have been my boyfriend or anyone I knew. The answer was no. His brother had moved away. My family didn't live near me anymore, and my boyfriend was out of town helping his dad with a job. Nothing was taken. Everything was in place except the back door was open. They took my statement and asked if there was anywhere I could go. Honestly, the answer was no. I was told to get a security system like an alarm. The police did a great job. I felt much better. They checked the house, the neighborhood, and even warned the neighbors. I couldn't get a hold of my boyfriend until he came home. I told him what happened, and he was shocked. Later that night, the neighbor had someone try to break into her house. Now I'm 23 and no longer live in that house. I'm still with my boyfriend, and we have a huge dog, a German Shepherd who was a guard dog, but I still fear taking baths. I have a nightlight that goes off when someone enters our garden and a security system. As for the person who did it, they never caught him. I remember working the night shift the other night at a local McDonald's. I had to fill in for my friend Kira, who called in sick. This night was probably one of the most terrifying nights I have ever worked. It was dead around 11 p.m. as I was asked by the manager to sweep the floors until a customer came in. One customer came in and he looked a bit rough. Bald, with a long rusty beard, glasses, sandals, and clothes that had stains on them. I went over to the register and said, "Hello, can I get you anything?" He said, "Yes, can I have a large coffee, please?" I took his order and gave him his coffee. I told him, "Have a wonderful night, sir," and he smiled. I went to sweep the floor again as I see this man sitting a bit close to where I would be sweeping, which is usually under the tables and just around the floor. When I reached his table, he said, "You're very beautiful." I smiled and said, "Thank you very much." He said, "Can I give you a ride home when you get off work?" I said, "No, thank you, I have a ride home." He became the opposite of the nice man that I took the order from. Just pure rude. He told me, "What's your schedule?" I said, "I'm not allowed to give that information out, sorry." He took his coffee and went back outside. The next night after that, Kira and I worked together along with my other guy friend Jack. I told Kira about the guy from the night before, and she gave me a weird facial expression. Jack came over to me and said, "Monica, is everything okay?" I told him about the guy from the night before and he gave me a look of terror. What he said to me ran chills down my spine. Jack said, "That man called the restaurant earlier and asked about you." My blood ran cold as I saw the man walk back into the restaurant. Kira's face went pale and Jack's jaw dropped. My stomach turned in knots as I said, "Hello, can I get you anything tonight?" He said, "No, but can I take you home?" Jack stepped out and said, "No, she is not going anywhere with you. Get out of here before I call the cops." The manager got pissed off at Jack for leaving his position at the drive-thru window while Kira was frying burgers. Jack agreed to switch positions with me until the morning crew came in. The manager asked me to take the trash outside. I nervously said, "Okay." Jack, on the other hand, was pissed that the manager asked me to do it. Jack was nice enough to take it for me. I stayed inside and Jack came in and pulled me to the janitor's closet and said, "That guy was waiting for you in his truck with 5 other big guys in there." I felt sick to my stomach when he said that. Jack informed the manager and the manager, like the terrible person that she was, said, "He is not going to hurt anyone. He is harmless. Get back to work." The next morning, me and Jack worked together and my other co-worker Taylor informed me that the man had come back and told her my schedule and that he would wait for me to come back in that day. I felt sick until I saw him come back in. Jack, being the good friend that he was, told him to get the hell out of the restaurant and to never come back again or else he would call the cops. Jack lost his job because of this, but to me he was just looking out for me. I cried when Jack lost his job because I knew Kira and I would be working alone without anyone else there to protect us. But I never saw the man again after that. I quit my job at McDonald's and so did Kira. Me, Jack, and Kira now live in the same apartment building and work at a grocery store. I do not know what could have happened to me if I had taken out the trash that night and not Jack. I am just happy I never have to see that creep again. So it has been 2 years since I posted here about my last McDonald's story, and I did not think it would get as much attention. I have been absent from here for a while because a lot of things went down during that time period, and I think this will creep everyone out even more. So here we go. Ever since my now fiance Jack got fired from McDonald's, he, Kira, and I went and transferred to a grocery store that actually got shut down due to bankruptcy. We all stayed at that grocery store for 2 months, and then we had no choice but to go back to working at McDonald's. Well, come to find out, the awful manager got fired and was replaced with a brand new manager named Emma. I knew Emma because she and I used to work at the grocery store together until she left after me and my friends got there. Emma looked at me with a very worried expression on her face as she walked up to me and said, "Hey Monica, do you have a boyfriend?" I said no, why? She said, "Oh, because this man has been calling this location for 2 months now asking about you." I tossed my purse on the ground in annoyance as Emma looked at me with a look of fear. I told her that man called this location multiple times and even asked me if he could take me home, and that he had been stalking me ever since. It was summer of 2016, near August, when Jack and I were working a night shift together from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., which I did not mind working overtime with him anyway, since it was just me, Jack, and a new cook named Brandon. All of a sudden, I saw a truck pull up beside the restaurant and I immediately got sick to my stomach. I saw the same man, bald, with a long rusty beard, sandals, and clothes that had stains on them, walk back in. Emma, being concerned, stood around the corner unnoticeable as she overheard the conversation. The man smiled at me as he made his way to my register. He smiled and said, "Ah, you're back. Long time no see, Monica." I responded in a fake happy tone. "It's nice to see you again as well. What can I get you tonight?" He looked me dead in the soul and gave a wide grin, saying, "A large French vanilla iced coffee with a Big Mac and a large fries, please." I typed in the order as I heard Brandon and Jack make small conversation in the back. I gave the man his food and he looked back at me and said, "It's so good to see you're back. I will be dropping by to visit you every day now." Jack had an annoyed look on his face as he pulled me to the back while we went on our break and said to me, "I can't believe he's back. Why the hell is he still coming here?" Brandon followed shortly behind as he said, "Who the hell was that man?" I told him the full story and his face went pale and his jaw dropped. After months of being harassed by this man, it was not until June of 2017 that all hell broke loose. Emma asked me to take out the trash and I was debating on not going because of what happened last time. Emma told me I did not have to go if I did not want to and that she would let Brandon take it out. Brandon immediately said, "I will take it out, do not worry." I felt bad because I could have taken out the trash myself, but I would get constant paranoia and gut feelings. Brandon came back in as the clock said 3:40 a.m. No customers came in and I decided to sit at a booth and take a break. I scrolled through my phone until I heard what sounded like someone coming to the door. At this point I was like, "Here we go," until I saw that truck again. I rolled my eyes and yelled for Jack, and Jack decided to switch positions with me as I went to be at the drive-thru window. All of a sudden, the man started attacking Jack as Emma came out and broke the fight up. What this man said to me will forever haunt me. He yelled, "Monica, if you ever leave this destination again, I will find you and kill everyone you love." Brandon's eyes widened as he looked back at the man and then back at me with a holy crap expression on his face. Jack had told this man many times to leave me alone. Jack and I dated for a year, and he has always been there for me and the other workers, looking out for everyone. As for that, Jack got rewarded with a management position, and I could not be happier because he deserved it. It is now March of 2018, and I can finally say the man that harassed me for almost 2 years is finally in prison for aggravated assault. He was wanted in another county for brutally mutilating a 17-year-old girl, animal abuse and domestic violence of his ex-wife and daughter. I hope that awful creep stays in prison for the rest of his miserable life. I hope he never gets parole, and I hope he rots in hell. Hi everyone, it's been some time since I've been here. I haven't done a part 3 yet because 1. This dude's trial was a very long one. 2. The updates I'm about to share are going to piss people like myself off. And 3. Some asshole hacked my account and wrote some fake part 3 that wasn't even true. So I had to change my passwords and everything to prevent it from happening again. So without further blabbing, let's get into what really happened. So, where the heck do I even begin with this story? As you all probably know by now, the creep who had been stalking me outside the McDonald's got arrested and put in prison for mutilating a 17-year-old girl, animal abuse, and domestic abuse against his ex-wife and daughter. Well, sad to tell everyone, the guy had to go to trial, and I had to testify against him many times in 2018. The trial was very long. When I say very long, it felt like we were at the courthouse for 20 years and counting. In April of 2018, I was asked by my fiancé Jack's attorney to testify against Mr. Bald Long Rusty Beard. Knots were forming in my stomach. I was sweating to death and feeling like it was the end of days. I remember nodding my head, agreeing to testify on everything that had happened. Jack, being the best, was my emotional support throughout this process. He knew it was hard for me, but I wanted to be the voice for the unspoken victims that this man tortured. In May 2018, court was beginning, and I was sitting behind this guy's ex-wife and daughter. The scars on both of their faces and seeing the mother in crutches with a leg cast broke my heart. It made me want this guy to get a life sentence for what he had done to his victims. I sat in the courtroom as I saw him enter. That feeling of sickness and disgust rushed through my body like no other. I felt like I was going to get sick again. This guy was sitting a few feet away from me. I wanted to wrap my hands around his neck and strangle him, but I kept calm and kept my eyes on him. I knew he felt my presence burning in the back of his skull. His defense team went on to say, "My client did no such crimes. He did not mutilate a 17-year-old, and he did not beat his ex-wife or daughter." So you mean to tell me that the 17-year-old mutilated herself, and his ex-wife and daughter beat themselves? Dummies. After 3 hours, the judge said the final verdict would be reached in January 2019. In June 2018, I finally took the stand and gave my side of the events that happened with this man. I sat there, and when I looked at him, he gave me a look full of hatred. He looked like he wanted to kill me, to say the least. The plaintiff, who was the 17-year-old girl's mother, was also there. You could just tell she was broken, losing her only daughter to this monster of a man. In that moment, I needed to be that girl's voice because, from what I heard from her mother, this man pretended to be a 19-year-old boy and preyed on her daughter only to end her life a week before her 18th birthday. This made me sick to my goddamn stomach. The attorney who was there interrogated me to tell my side, so I did. I told them he was stalking me. He was making direct threats. He harassed me at work over the phone. I told the full truth of events. Again, 3 hours later, we had to go back in August. I remember getting home after the second part of the trial and having a bad feeling that something terrible was going to happen at the end of the trial. I looked through all of my documented evidence. Journal entries, the security footage my manager emailed me in case I needed it, the dream journals I kept about how this man haunted me in my dreams, all that stuff. Jack sat next to me in the dining room holding my hand as I cried. He told me, "We'll get through this together. We always have and we always will." I kissed his cheek and hugged him tightly. I went to bed feeling paranoid about what the final verdict would be in January 2019. In August 2018, we didn't go to trial in July due to many delays on the guy's end. But again, we went back to court and what happened, you guessed it. More proof, more like fabricated BS on his side, claiming he was innocent when he really wasn't. The trial started, and I felt that same fear and sickness wash over me as I looked at him. His hair was falling out, he was getting thinner, and he continued to play the victim card. I was called to the stand again and gave my side of events. I felt the same dark butterfly feeling I had the first time. The defense team kept shouting objection to all my claims, something that hadn't happened before. I glared at them with a "don't you dare discredit me" look. The judge silenced them and let me continue. Again, I told the court how he stalked and harassed me. I presented the journal entries and the McDonald's security footage. After 2 hours of testimony and hearing useless defenses, the judge said we would come back in December. I felt that feeling again. During October and November, I was having a hard time. I was planning my wedding and stressed out, wondering about the final verdict. Jack and I had to push back our wedding many times because we didn't want to get married until we knew this creep was going to get life in prison. In December 2018, 1 month before the verdict, the mother of the 17-year-old took the stand. Her testimony broke my heart. I won't say what was said because it was graphic and emotional, but I want to respect her privacy. After her testimony, the defense came in with one hell of a defense. It made me wonder what they were thinking. They said, "My client has a history of mental illness and has been on medication. He was in recovery and didn't know what he was doing. It wasn't his intention to hurt anyone. It was an accident and an act of self-defense. Besides, there is no evidence to prove he did anything to anyone." Hearing this made me even more sick. I had to step out when the judge called for a break. I felt my chest getting so heavy that I nearly puked. We went back in, and an hour later, the judge said we would come back in the first week of January for the final verdict. January 2019. Get ready to throw your computer or phone out a window or at a wall because this is going to be the most messed up thing you will ever hear. Final day of the trial. After what felt like an eternity, we were finally hearing the verdict. The grand jury was sitting there. It was time. It took the jury 3 hours to decide the fate of this creep's life. The judge said something that made my stomach turn. He said, "Well, it seems that there is no strong evidence to claim this man murdered this 17-year-old girl." The jury came back with the verdict. Not guilty. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Creepass was found not guilty. The mother's outburst was heartbreaking. She was screaming and crying like no other. The ex-wife and daughter were also in tears, knowing there was no justice for anyone. This creep also took a plea deal. He pled guilty to domestic violence and had to register as a sex offender. He got no probation, but he did get house arrest for 5 years. After 5 years, he would need to go through the court-ordered therapy. That just shows how crummy police work is done here and how messed up the court systems are. Not gonna lie, this trial reminded me of the Casey Anthony trial. Who the heck gets away with murder like that? I was so pissed after that. I stormed out of the courtroom, went to the bathroom, and puked. The thought of knowing this guy is not going to jail, and that his defense team did everything to make this man get his way, is disgusting. I can already see the comments on this post. This ain't real, this is a joke, what the heck? Let me just say this. Rhonda Casto's killer is free. Kaylee Anthony's killer is free. Lauren Agee's killers are free. Alyssa Turney's killer is free. So many miscarriages of justice happen all the time, and this is one of them. A lot of them don't even get news coverage. This story got 0 news coverage, and I'm still pissed about that. But I will still advocate for the voices that aren't with us anymore because No matter what, everyone deserves justice for something traumatic that has happened to them. I want people to know this. Whatever you think is BS in this story is real to me because I went through it. It has put a lot of stress on me and caused me to be diagnosed with severe depression and major anxiety, for which I am on medication. Please be careful and please pray for the victims in this whole situation. As for the jerk who ruined so many lives and nearly ruined mine, I wish you a miserable, lonely life. And I hope one day you mess up and get sent to prison forever.